to another video with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today I'm going to talk about 5 games that I demoed at GenCon. Now, I'm going to put them in order from 5 to 1, but that's not necessarily indicative of how much I enjoyed the game or how good I think the game is. It's just I put them in an arbitrary order based on something in my head. So don't put too much weight behind the order in which they arrive. Just listen to what I have to say. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. So my number 5 is in its spot because I didn't actually physically play a demo, but I watched 2 of them during the course of the game. Every time I stopped by the booth, somebody was in the middle of a demo and I didn't want to take somebody's spot away from them, so I just kind of stayed back and watched. Now, Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles looks really fun. And one of the reasons why is because they're part of the mechanisms is allowing for this forward inertia that your thrusters are going to give you, and when you turn, it's going to take that inertia before you fire your thrusters again and move away. So you actually are drifting part of your movement so that you can get lined up for your next thruster burn. Oh man, it looks really fun, and I thought that it really, while it might seem a little complex, I think it's going to be very fun to play, and it's going to provide that extra layer of thought processes that has to go over planning out your movements. I really like it a lot. The miniatures so far, I don't know if they're production minis or if they're prototypes or something like that, but the Viper was like that long, and so was the Raider, and it looked great on the board. They had some really good paint jobs up there. Don't know if they're going to be pre-painted or not, but really had a fun time. That was number 5, Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles. Number 4 is a game that has recently come out from Games Workshop called Kill Team, where you're taking a very small skirmish level squad up against another person's skirmish level squad. And basically it has a lot of the same kinds of mechanisms that you would be familiar with in a Warhammer 40k, especially 8th edition, or something to that effect, but it has a couple of extra things on top of it that kind of streamline the game a little bit and make it a little bit more palatable, so to speak. Not that 8th edition was difficult, but this is just that much more streamlined, and it's really fast out of the box. The box is going to come with some magnificent looking terrain, as well as, of course, the models that you've grown accustomed to expecting from Games Workshop. So I really had a good time playing this. The demo that we played, we had a truncated squad, because it's just it's a demo. We used about half the models that come and are available in the box for each side, and had a great time with it, and it really flowed well. Wasn't difficult to understand at all, so really looking forward to giving Kill Team a try here in the near future, hopefully. My number 3 was one that wasn't even on my radar, but we went, Eric Summer and I went to a Yellow event that was actually not even for press. We kind of crashed the party by accident. We did not mean to at all, but Stefan and the other guys at Yellow were very cordial, very welcoming, and actually showed us 8-Bit Box, which is a new game that's coming out from Yellow this year, which is based on some of those old 8-bit video games that we used to play in the arcades. We meaning old people. But one simulates a Pac-Man-esque type of game. Another one is a racing game, and the third one is actually an Olympics, or it's actually called Stadium, but it's an Olympics-style game where you have a team versus team, so it has to be played with either 4 or 6 people, 2-man teams or 3-man teams. So the box comes with 3 games to play, and they have more that are going to be scheduled to come out later, and kind of like an expansion, kind of like a Time Stories-esque type thing, where you have these other things, the rules and certain components that you have to add to what comes in the base box in order to play those new games when you come out. But it's not usually my cup of tea, but I did enjoy the idea behind it. Now I want to play it more. Of course, I only kind of demoed one of the 3 games that comes in, and then he explained how the other 2 work. So I haven't actually played the other 2 yet, but the one that we did play was really fun. So that is 8-Bit Box from Yellow. My number 2 is a game from Emperor S4. I got the opportunity to spend about an hour and a half with a representative from Emperor S4, and he showed me a couple of games. One that I can't talk about because it's so deep in the prototype phase. At this point, they haven't even really given it a name yet, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's fun, though. Keep your eye open for it. The one I am going to talk about, though, is a game called Realms of Sand. And this one is a really neat game where you are building kind of these castles, but it's all based upon this idea of building sand castles. That's kind of where it is, but it's really interesting. It's pretty abstract because you have a player board that's has a grid on it, and each player's grid is a little bit different from everybody else's. You have a special ability on your player board that only you can do, that nobody else can, that can be fired off at certain times throughout the course of the game. And then you have these little 2D Tetris pieces, the different Tetris shapes and whatnot that are around the different. There's 3 rows, level 1, level 2, level 3, of different kinds of buildings that you're going to try to build using these different shapes that are in the circle around. So you start with a certain number of shapes that you choose, and then you're placing these shapes on your player board, and you have to stay within the boundaries unless your special power allows you to build outside of it. And once you get a certain combination, so to speak, of shapes and or colors, then you're able to claim that sheet and that card from the table, and it's going to score you points at the end of the game. And it's just a lot of fun. It's abstract-ish, but I still really enjoyed it. I had a great time. It's that level of abstraction that I'm okay with, and it's not too brain-burny, but it's really fun. So that's Realms of Sand coming out from Emperor S4 and Deepwater Games. Here in the near future, I believe he said he's going to be talking about a Essen release. So that's my number 2, Realms of Sand. And finally, my number 1 is a game that I have played before at last year's GenCon, and it is Time of Legends Joan of Arc. And this is a game that I really enjoyed last year. Love the aspect that they are doing with all of the different terrain. I love that it's a smaller thing, although it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to paint these because I'm not very good at painting smaller miniatures. But with all that having been said, I love that you're going to have buildings and trees and double-sided terrain hexes, and it's a modular board system and all of this kind of stuff, and it's just a really beautiful looking game. But on top of that, the system that they are employing is also really fun as well. This time I got to play a scenario where Joan of Arc was looking for her sword, and the English were trying to find the sword before she does. And it was just really fun being able to play Joan of Arc in this scenario. She is a wonderfully powerful character, but not too powerful. You really have to be careful with how you use her special abilities and using them in the right order and all of this kind of stuff. There's a lot of thought that goes behind it, but it was really, really fun. She was able to call the help of an angel, so that came down, and then there was a help of some ghost as well, and so there was just a lot of cool things that came along with this scenario, and it really made me just want the game that much more. I love the diversity of scenarios that they have in this, because the one that I played last time was really completely different, with completely different goals and objectives, and just really enjoyed it a lot, and had a great time playing. So that's my number 1 game that I demoed at GenCon. But again, there's not really there's just kind of an arbitrary order to these. But that one I did really, really enjoy. So that's it for the games that I demoed specifically. I demoed some other games, but they weren't actually demos. They were actually, I was playing copies that had been given to either myself or other members of the Dice Tower crew. So we'll talk about those in upcoming reviews, but these I don't actually have physical copies of yet, so we'll have to wait for a little bit longer for the reviews on these ones. But that's it from me. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side.